fastest show in sports.
So, everybody happy now? Everybody all nice and happy and smiles? Because NASCAR changed the playoff format and gave you back the 10-race chase format. Don't you feel much better now? Yeah, right. Everything's all settled in NASCAR right now. It's smooth sailing, and they once again will become one of the great sports in America. Matter of fact, who knows? Maybe even like the past, they could become bigger than baseball, bigger than the National Football League. Who knows? They could be whatever they want. Sorry, I had to go there because that's exactly what I thought when all this happened. Look, we've talked about this before. I am always of the opinion, I have always been of the opinion, that the NASCAR playoff format as it happened worked. I liked it. I understood it. You know, the biggest thing about liking it is I didn't mind the fact that they changed it. And to me, it took every single race down that stretch and made it important. And if you're not important and if you're not winning, you're out. It whittled everything down to that last race. I thought it was a great idea. That's what playoffs are like. But you see, that's the dirty word in motorsports. Motorsports doesn't want to hear the word playoffs because it doesn't fit. It's not what this is. It's supposed to be race until the very end, race the wheels off, and then you go ahead and win. I had no problem with it. One of the biggest issues I had with this, and believe me, I know I'm talking to NASCAR fans right now, and you're going to be upset about this, but I have to be honest. I'm always honest. What the hell didn't you understand? I mean, many times I would read posts on social media and reports on various web platforms that talked about how confusing the playoff format is. NASCAR fans are confused about the playoff format. Really? Come on, guys and gals. You couldn't have been that confused about it. It's easy. Here's the points. Here's the win. Here's the stages. Here you go. Here's the standings. You're in. You're out. Goodbye. Everything's fine. Okay. That's just me. I've been a motorsports fan since I was a kid. I mean, I remember going to the Orange County Speedway in upstate New York and watching a guy named Buzzy Ruderman win just about every single race in these old beat-up 1930s and 40s stock cars. I mean, I loved it. I've been a fan ever since. Matter of fact, I'm a fan of just about every single form of motorsports. I'm a guy who likes NASCAR. I think Formula One is great, even though it still is a sport that you got to watch on television more than anything else. I think IMSA has a great road racing series. I mean, some of those cars are brilliant. The drivers are absolutely great. And I love to watch drag racing. I mean, that goes back to my time when I actually had a 1969 Dodge Charger with a 440 and a dual exhaust, and I used to kick the crap out of everybody on the streets. I'm not going to tell you where, but because there still could be some tickets laying out there somewhere for me. But I love motorsports. So when they changed from the chase format to the playoff format, I had no problem with it. But I understand. I get it. I get that you wanted the chase format back. And don't think for a second that NASCAR brought the chase format back because they thought it was the best thing. No, that's not it. NASCAR brought it back because you bitched and moaned. You complained, you wheezed and hollered. You didn't show up at the races, you didn't buy the tickets, you didn't buy the gewgaws, you weren't watching on television as much. So NASCAR said, I think we screwed this one up. And they did because you didn't like it. And basically who didn't like it were the older fans. The fans in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, and 70s, and 80s, and maybe 90s. NASCAR was trying to go for a younger audience. They figured that maybe the teens, the 20s, and the 30s would get along with a playoff format because that's what every other sport uses. But what they didn't realize is the money still comes from the older fan. The younger fan hasn't caught on yet to NASCAR. I mean, yeah, I can tell. I hear a lot of, I read a lot of the studies and see them. And there's a lot of kids going to the races. But NASCAR is graying. And NASCAR needs to get younger in their fan base. They need to attract that younger audience. Look, that's every single sport in the world right now. Because as you turn over and everybody gets older, guess what? They spend less money. You got to go where the money is. You got to find the cash. You got to find the people who will watch. So therefore, NASCAR came in and said, we screwed it up. We put this in for a couple of seasons. The oldsters don't like it. Let's give it back to them. And let's see if we can sell our Back to the Future idea here on the youngins. Now we'll go ahead and market that. fine. I mean, really, I'm absolutely fine with that because it's okay. It's okay. But in the same breath, I don't want everybody saying that the playoff format failed. I think it worked for what it was. But you got your chase format back. Everything's good. Wash your hands. Everybody's happy now. Let's move on. Well, maybe. Because if we're going to move on and we're going to take NASCAR in this segment, in this show, we have got to take into account all that's wrong with NASCAR. And they still haven't changed it. Look, bringing the chase back is going to be a good thing for NASCAR. It's going to bring a lot of fans back. The fans who basically walked away, didn't want to take part in it anymore, thought that basically NASCAR had lost its way, they're going to get them back. You're going to go back. I mean, let's face it. But there's so many other things that they're doing, that they're not doing, that needs to be changed. They have got to do better by the fan. I come from a time when NASCAR fans could go into the paddock, go into the garage, when you could go down there and you could rub shoulders with the drivers. It was the best time. You could go down there, you could get autographs, drivers were there, you could watch what's happening in the cars. It was an experience. But now, it doesn't happen. Fans can't get down there anymore with the same regularity that they had. A lot of times it has to be a VIP. No. NASCAR needs to go back to opening up the garages to everybody before the races. Absolutely. Because that's part of the fan experience. And they have got to get the drivers and everybody back on board to be closer to the fan. Because I have been to a number of races where the drivers basically blow off the fans. Look, I know. There's people out there going to tell me that NASCAR drivers are some of the friendliest guys in the world. For the most part, yes, I will agree with you. But it's become a business for them. It's a multi-million-dollar business for these guys and gals, which is something else we'll talk about in a moment. And NASCAR needs to get them closer to the fans again. Look, there was a time when I was an executive with a motorsports industry, a league, a faction, if you will, of IMSA Racing. Okay? I used to travel around the country with them, and we used to take the drivers. There actually was a great spot in Toronto. I think it was, and I can't remember, it's been so many years now, where it was an ice cream shop. It was a restaurant. And the drivers used to come out before the races. This was in Toronto, and they used to come out before they were at Mosport, and they would come out, sit at these tables, and sign everything. I mean, the lines were a half mile down the road of people wanting to come out that got close to the drivers. The drivers were there. The drivers were friendly. The drivers took pictures. The drivers didn't care about any money. I mean, it was a fledgling sport, if you will. It was a fledgling league. They had to get all the promotion they want. I think the NASCAR has gotten too big for its britches, especially a lot of the athletes who basically think they don't have to rub shoulders anymore with the fans when indeed they have to. They have to do more for the fans. You come out to the races, you deserve to be taken care of. And not only that, prices are going up ridiculously in every single sport. They need to do better by the fans, make it more affordable, make sure that the campgrounds are better, whatever it is. But they need to do more to attract the fan. And one of those is making the drivers more accessible, which comes down to the next point. NASCAR has failed miserably marketing its drivers outside of the races. If you go to the races, you see them in their fire suits. If you go to maybe an event somewhere, they're in their fire suits. They've not made them people yet. We don't know enough about them. And look, I'm not saying that we need to know every single thing about the drivers. We need to know everything about their personal lives. But we need them to be more open to the fans. I mean, look, you could see NBA players attending certain events where they come out, they back the kids. They're not wearing their NBA jerseys. But of course, NASCAR is so particular about that because it's the sponsors who drive it. And the sponsors are saying, I put my logo on that driver, so every time that driver appears, I better see my logo or else I'm going to pull the money. They got to come to some kind of a working arrangement here because it's the same thing for football players. A lot of times you'll recognize football players. Hey, maybe they just wear a jersey of their team. Maybe you can come up with something in NASCAR where you wear a jersey with your sponsors' names on it and not the full fire suit. Humanize them. Get the drivers closer to the fans. Get them closer to the younger fans. Make them want to come out. Make them want to participate. Make the drivers be who they are. And as a matter of fact, I'll tell you something else. NASCAR clamps down hard on the drivers when it comes to social media because they don't want anything. They don't want anything out there. Don't piss off the sponsors now. Don't say anything. Let the drivers be the drivers. And I got to tell you, I wouldn't even mind it if the drivers are at it on the track one time and they're beating the daylights out of each other because motorsports is a contact sport, so is NASCAR, like anything else. When they get out there and maybe they go ahead and piss at each other on social media. Maybe they go ahead. Go ahead. I mean, a lot of these rivalries are staged to begin with. But let them talk. Let them be athletes. Let them be the jocks. Let them be the motorhead guys. Let them go ahead and talk motorheads if they want. But NASCAR needs to do a better job marketing its athletes, marketing the drivers, as more than just guys and gals who put on a helmet. Because they need to be recognizable. They need to be functionally available for the fans. Now, if you're a fan and you disagree with that, I don't see what you would have a problem with that. But I think you'd have to agree NASCAR has done a terrible job. The only time we see these drivers is when they're in a commercial for soda or mattresses or auto parts or something else like that during the race. Promote them outside the race. Give the team some money and wherewithal to spend the money to go out there and market these drivers. Which then comes down to the next part, and I mentioned it in there, and I'm just going to talk about this very briefly. NASCAR does a terrible job of fostering participation from minorities and from females. Look, we've been through this. NASCAR continues to trumpet the fact that it has all these kind of events and all these kind of programs to bring in the minority drivers, to bring in the female drivers, to bring in all the drivers. For the most part, it's bullshit. It's nothing more than basically mouthing and saying, here it is, okay, we got it, but they don't do anything. They don't put enough money into it. They don't put enough time into it. NASCAR, you're $1 billion entity. Spend the money. Because we don't see enough minorities there. We don't see enough black drivers. We don't see enough Hispanic drivers. We don't see enough female drivers. And there are brilliant drivers out there waiting for a shot. And they can't get a shot. They can't even get a shot in the secondary series or the truck series. NASCAR's got to do something about this. They have to make it more accessible to more people, to more young drivers. They need to spend more money and more time at the grassroots level to help push these kids along. And not only that, they need to then work with the teams and give the teams an opportunity, maybe make it a little more affordable to be a part of NASCAR. Look, I know they're all franchises, basically. Every team is a franchise that gets a chance to take part in NASCAR, much like it is in the NFL, baseball, NHL, NBA. And we just had that long lawsuit where Michael Jordan basically saved NASCAR from itself because NASCAR has been locked into its own authoritarian greed for a long time. Stop. Help the teams. Don't be crushing them with more money they've got to spend. Give them an opportunity to spend some marketing dollars. Maybe even help them. Maybe even supplement them. Let them go ahead and help promote their sport to not just the fans, but to the minorities, to the black drivers, to the Hispanic drivers, to the Asian American drivers, to the female drivers of every race, creed, and color. We need to see them. NASCAR right now still looks again like just another old white boys get together on the weekend. And again, there's people out there who will tell you that to this day, NASCAR is nothing but a bunch of redneck white guys getting together to go racing. To go racing is rubbing on the weekends. That's not true. That's not true. It hasn't been true for a long time. But NASCAR, for whatever reason, doesn't do enough to try and get away from that concept, from that idea. I don't know why. I don't know what they need to do next. But I'll tell you what, NASCAR, if you want, go ahead and give me a call. Because I've been in this game for a long time, and I could give you a couple ideas. You need to start thinking about spending the money and making the sport more accessible for everybody. And on a final note, stop changing the rules every single week. I mean, it's one of the most annoying things in the world. It's like if baseball changed the strike zone in the middle of a season. It's like if the NBA moved the three-point line back another foot. It's like if the National Hockey League made sure that the blue lines are now going to be even wider, and it's going to make it even tougher to be on sides, or maybe even the NFL decides to go ahead, and instead of having the kickoff the way it is right now, They'll just do a handoff maybe. Or maybe they'll create more penalties. Or maybe they'll stop passes longer than 10 yards. Change the line of scrimmage. Guys, stop. Stop. You want to know, and this is true. The playoffs didn't bother me. I mean, again, I go back to the fact that the playoff format didn't bother me. The fact that we're back to the chase, okay. Look, it's the way it is. The chase had its excitement to it, so we're going to go back to that. But in the same breath, every now and then, and you know this, if you're a fan, you know this to be true, don't tell me I'm lying, that right in the middle of the season, rule change. No! You set the rules and you live by them for an entire season. You stop screwing with the teams, screwing with the mechanics, and get it down to one thing that's going to be usable through the entire season. And not only that, I'm going to tell you one other thing. Loosen up a little bit on some of these regulations. I mean, we got a car out there that's maybe 1/8 of an inch too big on the spoiler. Come on. This is getting a little ridiculous. Not only that, but let's face it, we all know that the cars are all the same. The bodies are just, whether it's Chevy, Toyota, Ford, whatever, cars are the same. I mean, the power plants are, of course, down to exactly what it is, Ford, Chevy, whatever it is. But in the same breath, they basically look the same. They perform the same. I'd like to see a little more leeway in there. I bet the drivers would like to see a little more leeway in there. I'd like to see more banging around. And as a matter of fact, it's what makes racing fun. Again, I'm a fan. I want the sport to succeed. I don't watch as much as I used to, basically because I'm on to other sports. It's nice. I'll turn it on. I'll have it on in the background. But all these things put together, NASCAR's got to do a better job. And they can do a better job because you got to put the fan first. Make the fan the first thing you're concerned about, which they did by changing the playoff format to the chase because you talked about it, you screamed about it, you held back on spending tickets and watching the races, so they listened. Now listen a little more. Make the races friendlier to the fan and decide that you want them to be a part of the overall event. And, okay, maybe a little rubbing every now and then, a little crashing is not bad either.
Ed Berliner, the fastest show in sports.